The tree of life. Jazz hands. Back when life on Earth started, 3.7 billion years ago, when we were no more than just blobs, I imagine, the tree of life started, and it hasn't stopped growing since. And you guessed it, because anything cool that has ever happened has only ever happened in the ocean. That whole life on Earth started right here in our oceans. And since then, just like Pokemon, things haven't stopped evolving. But what is this evolution? The changes in the characteristics of animals over time, and when eventually they get so far from another one, we decide that they have evolved and it becomes a different species. 3.7 billion years is such a long time. From that point until this very moment, a lot of life has happened on planet Earth. Although I still think it should be called Planet Ocean. And life on Earth today now can be categorised into 12 big groups called phylums. These are big groups of animals that all share similar characteristics. So just to re-emphasise that all animal life on Earth has been split into these 12 groups. And in today's video, I'm going to be going rock pooling, and we are going to find an example of one of those creatures from as many of those phylums as we possibly can. I'm so excited to show you how incredible life is right here on the rocky shore, and just we are going through an evolutionary time journey today. It's gonna be amazing. Before we get into the rock pooling part of this video, I want to take some time to explain to you what phylogenetic trees are. Now that might sound fancy, and when you first look at it, it might seem a bit confusing. I was confused. I had a whole module on this. It was an interesting but like brain scratching module. But don't worry, my job as a science communicator is to make this as easy as possible for you and take you through step by step exactly what a phylogenetic tree is. So then when we go out and we find all the awesome stuff in the rock pools, you can go away and understand exactly where that sits on the tree and even draw it yourself. So let's go and head to draw this phylogenetic tree so you understand it. Understand? I'm going to go draw it in sand now. Puns. Let's go! Wait, you need to come with me. Come on, we can do it. Come with. Okay, bear with me. I've got my phone because I don't have a second camera person, so I'm also going to be filming as I explain. The first thing that we need to know about phylogenetic trees is that they're read in a direction. So from this case, we're going to be reading so that you're looking at it from this side to this side. So I'm going to draw an arrow along here. So this arrow is basically read over time. So this is maybe the start of time itself, well, the start of wherever life is, and then we move up to present day here. Oh, look at this, lunging like a crab. As not to spoil the incredible storytelling journey I'm about to take you on through evolution, we're going to be jumping ahead to when things develop backbones, because we know that happened, we've got one. So at this start marker here, I'm going to draw a mark here. This point here is where something happened, and this is where backbones evolved. So before this point, every creature hasn't had a backbone. And then we have things with backbones. Now, one of the first creatures to evolve that had a backbone is sharks, and sharks are still alive today. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a line just along, so we've got a bit of room, and all the way up to present day, and this is going to be our shark place. Now that line continues to the very end because it's still here. If sharks had disappeared off, then the line would kind of end before we get to the time that represents present day and things that are still alive, or the time that you kind of want to talk about at the end. Not everything in the world became a shark. After this point, other things also happened. I mean, it's kind of sad that not everything just became a shark. I would like to quite like be a shark. It would be quite good. But luckily, I suppose for us, if you like being a human, then fair enough, other things started to happen. So things evolved like normal for a little bit. We've got our sharks, but then as we go along, something else happens. A characteristic changes so much that we can call that thing a different species. And in that point, it turns out that the skeletons that sharks have are made of cartilage. They're very wibbly, they're very wobbly. They don't have hard bones like we have. And somewhere along the line, it didn't work out advantageous for those creatures to have wibbly wobbly bones, and so they developed bony skeletons. And at this point, it breaks off again. And this point here is where bony skeletons started, and we go all the way up here because we still have fish with bony skeletons, and so this is going to be our bony skeleton fish. But not everything on life is a bony skeleton fish. So what also happened is that eventually those things with bony skeletons kept evolving, they kept going along, and then they developed forelimbs. And that is our next characteristic point. Everything from that point onwards has forelimbs. Again, they're going along, then they develop again, and here we have all the things with forelimbs. Now, on the evolutionary thing, the thing with forelimbs that evolved, in this case, we're going to say it's frogs, amphibians, things that are amphibious. They had 4 legs, they're still kind of in the water, they've gained their 4 legs, they split off into that. Our next, so these are carrying on, but then we have another change, and this change turns out into things that have an egg. And then 2 other changes happen. We have things with hair go off here, and then things like crocodiles and birds come off here. This is a very clunky example of a phylogenetic tree. There's a couple of key points which will also help emphasize how we read these trees. Now we kind of understood how you kind of draw them. Again, you're reading from this way to this way, so there is a direction. At every one of these little points here, before there is a split, there is something that happens that causes a change in the characteristics, that causes that split. And we can call that the node. But really, that's just, remember that as the point at which a characteristic changes. If we want to tell how closely related 2 species are, say for example we want to compare how closely related mammals to sharks are, you can go back and count the amount of points at which it diverges, the amount of nodes, and then you can compare that to, say, another creature like a bony fish and see how many different nodes and changes and characteristics occur with this one. And there is only like 1 node difference between a shark and a bony fish, so they are more closely related than a mammal, which has at least 4 or 5. The other thing to remember is that they also have these characteristics as you go back. So a mammal will have a bony skeleton, it will have 4 limbs, or the development of kind of 4 limbs, because it kind of, evolution kind of grows on top of each other. Whereas if it goes the other way, so you have a shark does not have what a mammal has. It's already branched off by the time that that node gets into place. So you can go backwards and they gain characteristics, but just because a shark is also at the end, because it's still existent in present day, doesn't mean it has all the characteristics of a mammal, which is at the top. To get to a shark, you have to go all the way back down the group and come out again. You can't like skip down this row here. So not all species share the same characteristics. If you want to talk about a group of species that share the same characteristics, we can refer to this as a clade. So a clade might be, say, where eggs develop, anything where the egg has developed, that's in a clade by itself. Phylums work a bit like clades. They all have a similar characteristic. Clade can be at any point though, it doesn't just have to be a phylum. It can kind of be any group that you want to say and talk about. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's go find how many species we can find in different phylums. I'm so excited. Our first phylum right here. Are you ready, kids? I can't hear you. I said, are you ready, kid? Who is asymmetrical and has no tissues? A sponge is. And this is our first phylum, everyone. This is the phylum Porifera. Hopefully you will prefer this phylum to other ones. I don't know. Now this is a really cool, awesome sponge right here. And as you can see, it is asymmetrical, which means there's no symmetry in it. It doesn't matter where you cut this, if not physically going to cut up a sponge, but like, you know, if you were metaphorically cutting it at any plane, there is going to be no symmetry whatsoever. They're just a whole load of higgledy-piggledy wiggledy stuff. And they also have no tissues. So what are they? They're just this asymmetrical weird blob with no tissues. So they do kind of have cells in their body that work together. There's some cells on the outside, there's cells on the inside that like go all the way through the sponge and make it like tubey. They have that kind of like, they are able to contract and expand. And that is the purpose of a sponge, I suppose, is that it sucks in water through all of these tiny little holes, none of which are a mouth. That is a characteristic trait of a sponge as well. They don't have like a single opening that can be categorized as a mouth, but they have lots of holes and tubes in their body, and they draw water in, and they have these little tiny flagella, which are known as like tiny minuscule hair-like cells that do this. They catch all of the nutrients and the dead material and all the particles of matter that float through the water and absorb it into their body, and that is how they sustain them. Now, just because there is a long list of things that our lovely friends in the Papyrophylum don't have, doesn't mean there are anything less than incredibly, amazingly excellent. These are actually 600 million years old. They are the first, if not one of the first animals to ever exist, and they are still around today, and we found them here in a rock pool in just a pair of wellies. It is absolutely incredible. Plus, they wear pants really, really well. But they aren't square, they're asymmetrical, remember? They are not square. I can't wait to see what else we find. Let's go find our next phylum. Next up on our phylum list are cnidarians, or cnidarians, or cnidarians. Cnidarians. These are anemones, jellyfish, hydroids, and corals. What? Corals are related to jellyfish and anemones? Absolutely. The feature of this group is radial symmetry. This just means that if you took a slice of that animal at any point, the opposite side would mirror it. And what's incredible about this group is that we go from corals, which are animals that form giant reefs that have one of the most biodiverse spots on the entire planet and create these ecosystems and engineers, to these things called hydroids, which are basically just clear shapes. I'm doing hydroids a disservice because across all of these, another thing that you'll start to notice when you look at it is that they are similar in terms of the fact that they all have tentacles and they can all sting. Cnidarians can live singly or colonially. That means that, like an anemone, you can live on its own, it's just one animal. But things like hydroids and corals like to join together to form colonies, which means lots of individual animals joining together to even form a coral, like the big structure that you can kind of know, or a hydroid, which looks a bit like a jellyfish plant. These are really awesome, and today we have found anemones and hydroids. Now, you can find corals in the UK, but not here. Often off to the deep sea, and on the lowest of low tides, you might be lucky to find some soft corals living on a rocky shore. Jellyfish you can find in rock pools, especially because some baby jellyfish are hydroids, so maybe we have found some jellyfish today, but you often have to just wait for them to be accidentally caught out in a rock pool, and I haven't found that today at all. Maybe we'll find some washed up on the beach on the way back. I don't know. But for sure, that is definitely cnidarians ticked off our list. On to the next phylum. Our next big shift happens when we go from radial symmetry into bilateral symmetry, which means that now every creature from now on only has one way you could slice them and they would look symmetrical. For example, if you sliced here, my legs do not match my head, but if you did this in humans, then this half of my body pretty much matches the other half of my body. Obviously, there's a bit of like discrepancy. Not everyone is perfectly symmetrical, and inside, you know, there's the heart and that's asymmetrical, but on the whole, there is one plane of symmetry from now on. But the plot thickens, my friends, because there is another split in the sections before we get into the rest of our phylum, and this change splits the rest of the phylums into these two groups. And now the split is very, very niche. I don't know how they came up with this. When an animal is 8 cells, just 8 teeny weeny cells, an indent forms. This indent is called a blastophore. And if that little indent becomes a mouth, you are known as a protosome. Proto being first and some being mouth. And if that little indent forms an anus, you are a deuterosome, meaning mouth forms second. You might all be wondering, everyone, why is it mouth first, mouth second, not mouth first, anus second? It's a valid question, and a question that I had. I think that the reason it is mouth first and mouth second and not mouth first and anus first, which I think would be more logical in my brain, is because guess where humans sit? Which group do you think we sit in? We sit in the deuterosomes, so the mouth second group. And I think when the scientists went to name it, they just couldn't bring themselves to call us into a group called anus first. And honestly, I think that's a real shame. So let's go on a hunt for our first anus first, deuterosome phylum. Let's go. Woohoo! Wait, I forgot to make a joke that I wanted to make. They should be easy to find because, like me, they're a star. One of the features of echinoderms can be seen on starfish. Now, you shouldn't touch starfish. They don't like it. They're not very happy when you touch them. But if you have a look on the surface of their skin, you can see that the top is kind of hard. It's made up of lots of different types of spines. Now, this is a feature of echinoderms, but an echinoderm that takes it to the next level and is really awesome are urchins. Take the fact that echinoderms have spines on their skin to the next level. Their whole body is covered in spines except for the bottom, which has some tube feet and a little mouth, and they'll filter all of that food that they find down to that mouth underneath and eat it that way, being protected for that whole body, which is absolutely incredible. For those detectives among you, you might have noticed that I just said that everything that was going to be moving forward from this was bilateral symmetry, meaning there was only one plane, and yet we have a starfish, in which case you could pretty much slice it from a load of different angles and it would mirror each other. And yes, you would be right, but if we get into the technicalities of the anatomy of echinoderms, they have one singular opening for a system called a water vascular system, which I'm going to explain in a minute. And actually that one opening means that technically they only have one plane of symmetry along that kind of opening where that water vascular system sits. But also what to bear in mind with taxonomy is that we are trying to put a lot of complicated things into boxes. And I would say across many things in life, including taxonomy, it is impossible. It is always changing. It is more of a hypothesis. It is us having our best guess at the place that it sits within evolution and within evolutionary history. And so sometimes you do just get like, it does technically it fits in this, but a little asterisk, I see your point. As much as I would love to discover a new species, I am happy that I'm not in taxonomy, because it seems like somewhere where you have to spend a lot of time debating where things sit, finding lots of evidence, and it just feels like it would be quite like a head model to work out. So I'm going to be like, I admire you taxonomists, I'm going to leave that to you, and I'll just tell people about it once you've figured it out. Yeah? Now let's chat all things water vascular system. What this means is that they have an opening, and how echinoderms move is using this system. They pull in water into their body, all the way through their body, all the way through their kind of limbs, and it fills up things called tube feet as well. Now tube feet is what echinoderms use to move. They look like miniature plungers, and what is happening is that the muscles are expanding and contracting in starfish, and it's pushing and pulling that water in. I imagine a bit like bagpipes. Now they don't make noise, I don't think, but who am I to judge? I don't know. Now I'm not saying that starfish are walking around making the noises of bagpipes, but I'm also not saying that, because who knows? I mean, an actual starfish scientist might not agree with me, but I think we might not be able to know. Maybe we just can't hear it. So until it's proven wrong, I'm just going to assume they're walking around making the noises of bagpipes. Because I can. Musicians, starfish fans, let's combine. Let's make an experiment. Let's hypothesize. Let's see if this is true. As this water vascular system kind of gets pumped around the body, the tube feet are able to expand and contract, and with that it makes this like rudimentary kind of movement, and they have so many tube feet that they kind of go, and that is the scientific term for it. And they're able to move along, they're able to stick to things, and they're able to grip onto stuff like mussels as they pull it apart to be able to eat it. It's a really, really awesome adaptation. But it also means they're much more prone to pollution because they're bringing water right into their body, into loads and loads of different cavities across their whole kind of tissues. And that means that if there's any chemicals or pollution in the water, then starfish really get hit by that. And they're often then used as an indicator to tell how the water quality is, how pollution is, because they are so sensitive. The echinoderm includes a sea cucumber, which I would love to see rock pooling, but I haven't seen them rock pooling. I've only seen them once in an aquarium and I was very excited. Insert the picture here. I have never seen a sea cucumber before. That is so cool. I just love that even in aquariums, and I go rock pooling all the time, I get to see new stuff. They're just the weirdest things. And also feather stars, which you can find rock pooling. I just haven't been lucky enough to find it here ever. But if I was I found them in like South Wales before, which are really, really cool. When I first saw that a feather star was an echinoderm, I was like, really? Doesn't look like an echinoderm. It looks more like an anemone, right? But actually, if you just think about them as starfish with feather boas, totally makes sense now. I think that's basically what a feather star is. It's a very, very extra starfish. I love it. There I am. I just had to find myself for this one because it's chordates. Things with a backbone? Sorry. There's loads of chordates that you could find on the rocky shore. Think about things like otters or seabirds that come down to predate on things, and the ton of amazing and incredible fish species that you can find. There's another type of chordate I love to find on the rocky shore, and it is this blob. Yes! Thank you for being you! So, why are these basically just blobs, known as sea squirts, actually in the square with a backbone? Well, called sea squirts because if you touch them, they will most likely squirt you in the face. The squirting in the face isn't necessary, they just squirt out water, but the likelihood of Sod's Law means it's about 100% hit rate most of the time. And that is my professional opinion. And this happens because there's two outer holes. One is the mouth and the other one is the anus. Actually, if you follow the mouth all the way through to the anus, it really replicates almost human digestion, from an esophagus to a stomach, right the way around to the rectum and then the anus. Science facts, everyone. What are you laughing about? Now, but where this gets incredibly cool is actually something we need to remember when we're going through this evolutionary tree, this phylogenetic tree, is that it is at any stage in the development of this animal, whether it's as a juvenile or as an adult, that counts where it gets put taxonomically. And so as a sea squirt is a tiny little baby, it spawns into the water, they mix, it forms this little larvae, and it swims through the water looking for a new place to settle. This helps sea squirts not just be in one place, but go on to settle around basically loads of the ocean, most of the ocean, tons in the ocean. But it's during this stage that if you have a look at the little larvae, it actually has something called a notochord, which is just an incredible discovery. And this is one of the first, if not the first, kind of backbones. It's a preliminary nerve and backbone that it loses when it becomes an adult. It is very much just a squishy blob as an adult. But how unbelievably incredible that this tiny blob that you can find on a rocky shore is actually unlocks the key to learning more about our own evolution and the evolution of every single animal on the planet that has a backbone. This was the last branch off, basically, except for the weird wormfish things. The lancelets? Those two together, this was the last break-off point before we got everything else from that has a backbone. And so that is why weird sea squirts are included within the chordates, because they do, at their development, have a backbone. I love nature. It's so weird. The sea is really, really weird and I love it. Our final phylum in the Deuterosome is hemichordates, which I'll give it to you. I had either forgotten about it from when I learnt in modules 2, I hadn't heard of them before. And I have the feeling we could find them if I, one, knew what I was looking for, and two, was able to dig through the sand, because a lot of the time they are burrowing. They are worm-like creatures. They're not worms, they're worm-like. We're in weird territory here, and you can find a few species apparently in shallow waters, intertidally, in the UK, in this possible location, maybe, but honestly, I don't think without a microscope and someone showing me what that species was, I don't think we're going to find them. But so I'm sorry, we're going to go with no, we didn't find any hemichordates, but we could. So maybe when I find out what they are, or where they are, and how to find them, I'll circle back. Now we're getting into protozomes, but before we do that, they're going to split into two groups again. This group and this group. Can you tell we've reached too many letters for me to try and pronounce? Now this group technically has a load of different reasons for its characteristic shift. It's something to do with early stage embryo development, and there's lots of different characteristics, but I'm just going to define it by this group's definition, because their definition is for them to grow, they have to shed their exoskeleton, their skin basically, to be able to increase kind of in size. And this ones don't. I think that is a pretty good split between the two, and that is probably the easiest way to remember them. I mean, that's weird, right? I love it. It's so weird, and it also includes my absolute favourite group.
But before we get to that, let's try and go through the Lophotrochozoa group. Yay! I tried.
This rock is absolutely covered in our next phylum, Bryozoa. They are so cool. Now this is a load of them, not actually just one. So this crusty stuff here is all a big giant city of these things called bryozoans, and each tiny dot is an individual organism. A lot of the time bryozoa love to live in colonies, and they have these really cool things called lophophores which pop out and they filter the water, take all the nutrients, and they pop back in. They look just like these little crusty bits of sea moss, and that's another one of their common names, is sea moss. I love these so much, and when you realise just how many are here and how many there are on the entire rocky shore and across, you know, this is one small beach in Scotland to the whole entire world, and bryozoa are incredible. They grow on almost every hard surface around the world. They are just absolutely like nailing being in existence. I just think it's so incredible to just think how many of these incredible animals are here in the world. So many. We are wiggling in. We are wiggling into this next phylum because this is the annelids, Annelida. I am already a worm person. I am. If I see little earthworms trying to cross the road in the rain, I am that person that will help them make sure that they get safely to their chosen, hopefully chosen. They're not too great at communicating where they want to go, but I'm assuming it's not tarmac, to the other side of the road. And those earthworms are also in the group Annelida if you've seen earthworms in real life, if you've seen all those landworms. But sea worms are just incredible. I know worms get a bad rap as this slimy, wiggly thing that isn't very interesting, but honestly, they are incredible. Found such a cool type. We found a type of ragworm, which is a real predator on the shore. It will go along and it will start wiggling around. It's got these pincers and it actually hunts smaller worms, smaller creatures that it can eat, which is so cool. We've also got worms that form calcium carbonate stone tubes to protect themselves. They are building an environment around themselves. And if I was rock pooling in South Wales today, I could even show you entire reef ecosystems made from worms, which you can check out in this video. We have other ones that form burrows and tubes and bury into the sand. It's a really, really incredibly diverse group, all the way from basically a little wiggly worm that just, you know, might eat a bit of sand, maybe make a tube, right the way up to things that are absolutely changing the entire ecosystem around them. So don't underestimate how cool the worms are. They're so wiggly and cool. Now I will ask you a question. Now are you ready for our next phylum? Another pun for the win. Boop, 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 boop. Don't even need to say we're gonna find this one. The rocky shore is absolutely full of mollusks. There are so many. Mussels, limpets, snails.
And these. This is one of the coolest finds I think you can find rock pooling, and it's difficult to spot sometimes despite being brightly coloured. This is a sea slug. Now I think they're way better than land slugs, and they're often brightly coloured because a lot of species eat hydroids, those like jelly plants I mentioned earlier. And what these creatures do is that they take the stinging cells and they put them into their own body so that if anything tries to eat a sea slug, they themselves get stung, but they don't have to use the energy making them, they just steal them, which is so cool. So if you ever see one of these in the wild, oh, it's just the best.
Sadly, I'm joining you with another phylum that I don't think we can find or is not on the rocky shore. These are brachiopods. So from what I had a look in my research, basically, they're somewhere between a bivalve, so they look a bit like a mussel or a clam or something, but they're actually more closely related to a bryozoan, so they've got a lophophore for filter feeding. They are weird. I love that they're weird. That is so one for the list to find in the future, but I don't think there's that many species of them in the world, and I couldn't work out if they can or cannot be found in tidal rock pooling, and certainly I did not find them today, or maybe I did and thought they were a bryozoan or a mussel. I probably didn't. So one for the wish list.
Okay, and now it's time to look for that group where their skin falls off to grow. I mean their outer shell, the weird group.
Arthropods are the most successful group on the entire planet, and they include some of my absolutely favourite species. Crabs!
Can you spot this crab?
So arthropods actually means segmented leg or segmented foot, and you can see that each of the crab's legs here are formed of different segments. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 segments on a crab's leg. Now crabs are a crustacean, which is a type of arthropod, as well as my other favourite species, these guys. Final phylum, Onchiophora. Can I get a boo? Elizabeth, why are you booing animals? That's not very you. Well, actually, this is the only phylum that is fully terrestrial. Has never been in the sea, isn't in the sea. They're the velvet worms. And I'm sorry, but I just can't approve that. That does not get approval from Elizabeth. How dare you not want to be in the sea at any point? No. It's a no from me. Bye. Seriously, velvet worms, what's your problem with the sea? Why do you just want to be on land? No, and we can have a respectful discussion and a debate, and I will respect all your choices, but how dare you? How dare you? Our final phylum is Priapulidae, and I'm actually just going to read an extract from the book Marine World that I was using to research some of this stuff. I think that best sums up a bit about it. This phylum includes 4 groups of small microscopic animals that are unlikely to be encountered by anyone, not specifically searching for them. Well, in all fairness, I would like to search for them, but for those interested tiny animals, they are worth the effort because many are beautiful. There you go. So, I don't know where they are. I don't know what they are. They look a bit like a microscopic fluffy worm, maybe. So I couldn't find them. So that brings our total to 8 of 12 phylum we were able to find today. Just today, on the rocky shore. Isn't it absolutely incredible what we've managed to find? We managed to find 8 of the 12 phylum of the entire animal kingdom in just a pair of wellies right here on the rocky shore. It is absolutely amazing. Today we have gone through a whole evolutionary history of animal life on Earth, pretty much, right in these rock pools, right in our oceans, that we can access, that we can see, that we can go and explore. And even if you can't get out to rock pools, I really hope that you comment and discuss and just tell people how amazing and incredible this sea life is with people in the comments, and head over to my Patreon and have discussions over there as well. This is what this channel is all about. This is what I want to share with the world, how amazing and incredible intertidal sea life, rocky shores can be. And what is also incredible is that not only are we finding something from each of the phylum, we're finding diversity. There's not just one type of echinoderm, there's not just one type of mollusk, there's so many different species in such a small area. Everything today was filmed within 2 days of rock pooling, like next to each other in the same place. And there, I could have found it all in one day. I just had to film over 2 days because I'm also talking to camera. You're limited by tide. How incredible is this? Even if you can't get out rock pooling yourself, I encourage everyone to start talking about this, start communicating, start talking in the comments, start chatting, start telling people just how incredible our oceans are, because if we fall in love with them even just a little bit more, we're going to want to protect that. We're going to want to protect the incredible life history that is here, that is our oceans, that is helping us sustain life now and has sustained life since it first began. I feel so grateful to be able to explore here. I feel so grateful to be able to make this video, and thank you all for coming along on this adventure with me. Please like, share, subscribe, tell everyone about this video because I think it's really cool. And also, if you want to help support me and my channel, head over to my Patreon. There you can become a little virtual rock pool person and access exclusive content and help support me make videos like this, which not only do I find incredibly fun, but I think it's really important to share with the world how awesome this place is, because let's face it, it's so awesome. Bye everyone, see you in the next video.